Hello, I'm live. I'm live. So welcome to the first video on Facebook's Brain Matrix, and I am Nathan Aherne, and what I'm declaring today is that I'm out to create and discover the algorithms that will lead us towards, or have us create, general artificial intelligence. I don't say that without a little bit of a wet my pants moment. That's a big bold statement to make. You know, you look in the mirror, I wake up in the morning, I look in the mirror and I think, am I the bloke to solve one of the biggest challenges ever? So I don't make that statement lightly. But if I don't make the statement, it's not going to happen. If I'm not committed to it, it's just not going to happen. So the simple fact of the matter is that if I wanted to have it happen, I'm going to have to do the work to make it happen. And that's why I created Brain Matrix. I've created a few YouTube videos before. You can head over there, same channel name. I started that several months ago. I've been doing research in this for years and years and years. How it started off was I started reading about psychology, and I've always been a math nerd, always been a giant nerd. I worked in tech for 20 years, probably longer. Pulled my parents' VCR, if you remember what VCRs were like, you know, if you're old enough to know what a VCR is. Pulled my parents' VCR, apart back when they were worth, $1,000 a pop, much to their horror. And it just had it on the lounge room floor, just in every piece. And then I put it all back together again, and I didn't tell them this at the time. And I'll let you guys in a little secret. When I put this brand new $1,000 VCR back together, there was about 4 parts missing. 4 parts left over. And so I just quickly went to the bin and threw them away. Because I had no idea where they went for, and there was no instructions. I just remembered how to pull it apart and put it back together again. Forgot 4 bits. So that's a bit about me and my level of nerd and how long I've been a nerd. And my passion for this is I just find how we think fascinating. I love pulling myself and looking at how I behave and how other people behave, and really bringing my behaviour into something that's tangible, something that I can physically hold. We talk about things like emotions, or how we think, as these things that we don't fully understand. And when I started reading about psychology, really what was there was, we know a fair bit. Now a lot of it's a guess. We also know a lot that there's a lot we don't know. But we do know a lot about why we think the way we think. We've got some really good theories. Now, they're not true. I'm not sure that we'll ever be able to actually state something as true until we've been able to actually replicate it in reality. And that's what Brain Matrix is about. I mean, if we're going to create general artificial intelligence that's as smart as us, probably a good idea to look within. I would say that, and as you can read in the description, my view is the secret to general artificial intelligence is within each and every one of us. Each and every one of us is uniquely capable of developing general artificial intelligence. So a bit of numbers, a bit of self-reflection, probably a fair bit of stone turning. When they turn up all the stones looking for the thing you're looking for. And it doesn't occur to me that it's a needle in a haystack. How it occurs to me is it's like a eureka moment. At that moment where you go, okay, this all fits together. And so where I started on this journey was that I got told about this thing that I had no idea about called gaslighting. And, being a person who likes to think that he's particularly smart and is quite learned about many different areas, to discover that there was something that not only had I been the effect of and trying to work out what the hell it was, but that I'd done that for years and had no idea it was happening. And I was so annoyed with myself that I'd never read about psychology, in any deep depth. And so I just went, I literally pretty much stopped work and went as hard as I could. And that's sort of how I do things, is that if I'm really passionate about something, I work at it really hard. And so I spent 2 full years just reading and consuming as much as possible and pulling myself to pieces, essentially discovering the effects of gaslighting on my own mind, and discovering all this great stuff about it. And I remember sitting in the room with a psychologist, and this person had never been at the effect of someone who behaves in this particular way. Now look, gaslighting has become this word that we like to throw out on the internet willy-nilly. And look, sure, I'm not saying that that's true or untrue. I'm talking about people who behave at the level of gaslighting where, you sit down at the kitchen table and you're sure you put the pepper and salt on the kitchen table, and when you sit down at the table and they're not there, and you can't work out what the hell, you think you're starting to lose your marbles, and not only that, but the person sitting across from you says that you're crazy. That's gaslighting, and it's not an accident, it's intentional. And the way people at that level think, I found fascinating. And when I was sitting across the table from this psychologist, what I got in that moment, because living with someone who's like that, it's not like every now and again they behave that way. They behave that way all the time. And it's just a constant attack on your ability to create your own reality. And sitting across the room from the table from this psychologist, and having sat across the table from lots of psychologists, and reading a lot about psychology, what I got was that there's a lot of psychologists out there to give their left leg, probably not literally, well there may be some that do it literally, but figuratively give their left leg for lived experience with this. And I had gotten 8 years of this. 8 years of lived experience with someone who's considered at the extreme of human behaviour. And at the time, I wasn't real pleased about it, and that might be kind there. But in that moment, I actually got that how negative it was, or my view of how negative that experience was also how positive it could be if I used it in the way that in a way to develop myself further, and maybe even share what that looked like with the world. And I've done that in private. But what I discovered was that my love of mathematics and technology and now psychology really matched up to this intense interest in artificial intelligence, some people call machine learning, and it's aptly named machine learning today because it's essentially a machine learning, and that's about it. But artificial general intelligence is so much more than that. It's the ability to adapt to your environment. It's essentially creating something that's smart or as smarter than human beings, or maybe not to start off with, but over time significantly smarter. And so where I'm coming from this, and why I've talked about the word gaslighting, is to say that's the foundation on which I'm starting. And the reason I'm starting from that foundation is how I described my own experience was the injection of an alternate reality. And that started, we've all been on the YouTube late night, rabbit holes. I started down a rabbit hole, and the rabbit hole wasn't so much the gaslighting. It was much more about what is actual reality. Like, what is it? What's actually solid and real? Because if we're going to start, we've got to start somewhere if it's going to be an artificial intelligence, and that somewhere has to start from reality. And then, why are we susceptible to gaslighting? What makes us susceptible to that? Because it's an injection of an alternate reality, not the true reality, an alternate one. And there's so many awesome things that came out of that. And so, what's it, 2020 now? So you'd say 5 years worth of research. To put that in perspective, when I first started machine learning, within a week, I went from never having used machine learning before to having an algorithm being able to detect all sorts of complex things in live video. So it wasn't particularly complicated for me. So 5 years is a lot of time for me to learn something. It's one of my things that I'm capable of doing quite fast. I learn things fast. So some people have said that some of the ways that I explain this are difficult to understand, and I get that. This can be difficult, and this is a lot of rock turning. So it's a lot of this is what I'm looking at. This is the subject, and the thing between my fingers, or let's just say this thing, and I'm looking at it from a bunch of different perspectives to discover, is there something there? So if there's anything that comes up here that I don't explain correctly, that you didn't get, or you'd like to know more of, like 100% ask me the question, because that might be the alternate explanation or the alternate perspective that has us unlock general artificial intelligence. Sorry about that, I just got a call and that just interrupted the video. I thought I had Do Not Disturb on, but my mate called me. So that should hopefully give you a good introduction. I just want to reiterate, anything that I don't explain correctly or that you didn't quite get, please ask. Some subjects might be more complicated and may require like further reading, and I will attempt to post the links of those for further reading that might shed light on some more information around that. I'll post them in with the post. This is, in my view, I'm attempting to share my views with the world. So this is not just all about me. You're welcome just to watch and not contribute. There's no expectation of that. I'm just really glad that you're interested in this subject. I should throw the proviso out that when I started this, I was really confronted, and this might be just my own thing, I was really confronted about things that I just didn't know, and that I'd walked through life thinking I did know or completely oblivious to. It was like I was standing here and there's this thing my whole life that's been sitting right next to me and I'd never seen it. So there's a lot of the time here we get a lot of self-reflection happening, only because you sort of can't help but notice it. So if you get confronted by that, sorry, not my intention, but you know, when I unlock the secrets that is us to create this being, this artificial being that can work with and walk with humanity into the future, because I believe that we're going, you know, any assistance, you know, having a great team member always makes a big difference, and having one that's like capable of being smarter than us and working with us, alongside us in hospital environments would make a huge difference, because we're fragile. We can't go out to space, but they can, you know, get in themselves in some robotic thing and off they go. So I'm looking forward to the journey, and thanks for coming and listening. Speak to you soon.